Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Jill.
Frank Carini.
Here.
Cheryl Stuniglia.
Here.
Amy Malat.
Here.
Leah Schreiber Johnson.
Here.
Mark Verhalen.
Here.
Darren Grabowski.
Here.
Jane Eichhoff.
Here.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for your patience and joining our meeting on June 22nd. We're going to go right into committee of public input. So I'll turn it over to Dan to see if we have anybody there.
So if we have anyone wishing to address the board in the comment room, our IT specialist will help you do that now.
I guess that's me then. Can they see me from here?
Yep, I can turn you on.
Okay. Hello, my name is Dan Bukevich. I am the mayor of Oak Creek, and I'm also the president of the Milwaukee Building and Construction Trades Council. First of all, I'd like to thank the school board for allowing me to come in and speak. And I understand we have Matt on the line from Next Construction. I'm really here to just address the board on Next Construction. The program is in about its fifth year now. He's wrapping up his fifth home. For those of you that were on the board 5 years ago, you'll remember I came here on behalf of the program and I said it's going to be a huge success. I guess I'm coming here to tell you what you already know. Your program is a huge success. It is the gold standard for what a program should be when it comes to introducing these students to the trades. More importantly, you have the gold standard in teachers, and I'd like to shed some recognition on that. You have one of the most dedicated individuals I have run across. I mentor throughout the area. I deal with a lot of people, and they are good. They have some great programs throughout the county, and Brown Deer and Franklin and everything there. Granted, I'm an Oak Creek guy. I'm a little prejudiced, but let me tell you, the dedication this guy showed to the community, to the students, to the schools is invaluable.
Well, Mayor,
I don't know if there's ever a teacher of the year right now. They should certainly be more than willing to put him up for that. In the midst of the COVID, he was out there finishing this home by himself. Unfortunately, the students couldn't be there with the situation we were in. But to no end, Matt was there, and even when the kids are there, he is one of the most dedicated individuals I've ever seen. You know the success of the program. He's on his fifth house currently. Plans for the future. You guys already have another lot secured. We'll see what the future brings next year with COVID and everything, if you're planning another one. Either way, we could work programs. But the skills he's teaching these young people, whether they go into the trades or not, is invaluable. These students come out of it. I see them at school occasionally. I visit the job sites. It gives them the sense of worth that a lot of that was always reserved for our football players, our athletes, our bands, our forensics teams, things like that. You've given a niche to certain kids that were looking for that outlet, and I applaud you all for supporting this program and being behind him. So, Matt, congratulations to you on this program. You are the program right now in my eyes. I just want to make sure we're all aware of it. I really want to get a point across of just what a special people you have in Oregon. It's incredible. So, any questions? I'd love to take them. Matt, congratulations. I hope you're enjoying your summer and see what the fall brings. And again, you know you're always welcome to call. Anything you need from us, we're here to help you.
So Mayor Dan reached out to us, and we thought, we couldn't be happier happier to have Oak Creek Leader come in and do a little share the celebration, highlight the achievements of a member of our staff. So Mayor Dan, we thank you for joining us tonight. Appreciate you coming. And Matt, thanks for logging on. And we appreciate this moment to thank you for the hard work you do for all of us. So.
Thank you for having me. Good luck next year. We look forward to good things when it smooths out. Matt, again, thank you for all you do. You're making a difference in these students' lives, not just now, but for always. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Matt,
Thanks, Sam.
Hey, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
It looks like you wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Thank you. I missed that. You cut out?
I thought you wanted to say something. I didn't know if you wanted to say anything, any couple words or anything.
Well, I obviously appreciate all your support, administrative support. Obviously, I work a lot with Andy and Lana. And then this year was really showed their support for the program because we got more of our buildings and grounds support with it to kind of help finish up certain aspects of it. And it was obviously a little bit different finish this year. It's a group effort this year to finish up the house, which again, I appreciate to make sure that we can have a nice finished product and keep the program strong and continue. So thank you after this as well. So.
Echo Mayor Dan's comments. Thank you, Mayor Dan. You're a huge asset to our team. We love to have you and what you do to our kids every day. I couldn't echo the comments like Mayor Dan said. We appreciate all the hard work you do, and I know it's not easy, but thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The house turned out great this year too, by the way. So we do have some parameters where you can do an open house, and I'll be like a time in your schedule to come take a look at it. So
okay,
that'd be great. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else want to say a comment?
I don't believe we have any more comments in here.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, reconvene former portion of the meeting. Back to action items. Personnel. Do you have a motion?
Soniglia moves to approve.
Was that Amy?
Yeah.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. All right, motion was moved forward. Number 6 on the agenda, authority of chief business financial officer, superintendent to sign contracts to sell or purchase real estate. Do we have a motion?
Soniglia moves to approve.
Aycoff seconds.
All right. Any discussion?
I'll just add a couple notes. Can everybody hear me through the microphone?
Yep.
So this is brought back yearly for the superintendent, Dan and I, really along the avenues of being able to sell our Knights construction house and or pursue any property that would potentially allow us to build another house. As was mentioned, Matt did a great job in taking over after March 13th and school closures. We brought the buildings and grounds team on board to help with some of the aspects of doing driveway and the lawn and finish the grading and things like that. But Matt really took a lot of ownership. Our house cost a few more dollars than it has in the year past simply because we had to hire a couple of contractors to finish some things that normally would have gotten done between March and now. If things go as well as planned, we'll be able to make that up with the sale of the house. It goes on sale Thursday, or officially gets listed Thursday. And we're pretty excited about that. So this is really a formality so that if we accept or we receive a reasonable offer, Dan and I can accept that and sign the paperwork and just push the sale of the house through like any real estate transaction would happen.
Do we know what it's being listed at yet?
Yep, 4099.
Wow, nice.
So we work with a local realtor. John Michaels has done all of the houses that we've had. So he takes care of looking at the comps like he works on our behalf. We pay a small commission because we get quite a bit of work out of him on the side as well, and doing other things for us. So yeah, he takes care of all the comps, gives us the pluses and the minuses, gives us the range that he thinks it's going to go for, and then we make an informed decision based on that information. And he takes care of the process from there. So he'll list it come Thursday. He takes care of all the showings, or at least getting other realtors in to show it, takes care of receiving offers, and walks us through any of the fine print details as any realtor would that deals in those particular transactions.
Okay, any other questions? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay.
Do we need the actual verbiage from the agenda item?
What?
I don't, given that there's no statutory requirement for this, I believe that the vote as it is.
We can't hear you.
Not the specific language. The specific language is written in statute. Granting the authority is the piece that we're doing.
Okay.
All right, next on the agenda, second reading revision to policy 344.1, start college now, and policy 344.2, early college credit program.
So Nigley moves to approve.
Is there a second?
Grabowski seconds.
Thank you.
All right, welcome John Krunick to weigh in for us tonight here. Hi, John. Go right ahead whenever you're ready.
Hello. Yeah, this was just an update from Start College Now and Early College Credit Program that were recommendations by the Wisconsin Association of School Boards. Anything that they recommended was in yellow, and then anything that was going to be removed had a line strike. Hopefully it was very simplistic and easy to read. It's more of housekeeping grammatical things than anything else.
So would you say, John, that there aren't any substantive changes to this document that we need to highlight to the board? It's more of the strike through that we like to look at when we have to do an update?
Correct, yeah. But more formalities than anything. Yep.
Thank you, John.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, John, it's Frank. I got a question. Two questions. One, it looks like we have about 18 kids that are involved with this. And then two, if we have to go above 30, can we do that?
Can we go above 30 for?
It looked like the max in the class
Start
is
college
30.
now?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.
All right. Informational items, student academic standards, learning requirements.
It's hard to believe that 1 year ago was my first situation report, and this is the first one that I did. So this is an annual update. Each year we have to adopt the Wisconsin academic standards. This is just informational, again, formality. The first Monday in July that we meet is when it has to be voted on. So everything that's linked in is nothing new. It's a process that continues each year and will continue for the foreseeable future as long as the state continues to update their standards. The board adopts them, and then they become our Oak Creek standards, which are part of the Wisconsin academic state standards.
We're really marking a year here for John. This is a full circle moment for him. And I'll say on my own behalf, John, you haven't aged a day despite spearheading a lot of our efforts through virtual learning and now the transition to this fall. So thank you, John.
I wish I felt that way. It was a fun year.
All right. Next on the agenda, a semi-annual review of Health and Wellness Center.
Now here's the real thick packet tonight. So we have Andy and Troy are going to walk us through some of this here tonight.
So unlike John, this feels like it's my 100th situation report. I know it's not that many, but it feels that way. So Health and Wellness Center, if you had a chance to review the situation report, in essence, what it says is our Q3 and Q4 in 2019 were great. Everything kept going up. The things that we wanted to see went up. The cost went down. The cost per visit went down, that is. We saw an increase in disease management. We saw an increase in medication refills. So everything going along swimmingly. even better January, even better February. Really good quarter, really good months of our first quarter of 2020. Again, things kept going up. Medication refills, disease management, all of it went up again. And then we opened for 40 hours, and then COVID hit. So we were having a good first part of March, and then everything pretty much stopped. So the short version is everything was really, really heading in the right direction. You as a board made a very smart decision and increasing the hours, but none of you, I wish one of you could have foresaw this coming, then we could have said, let's wait a month. But we didn't. We opened 40 hours and things pretty much in their tracks. We were doing a lot, I shouldn't say we, Cynthia was doing a lot of virtual visits, telephonic visits, whatever she could do without having people come in. And we're, again, medications, all of that stuff, we're getting taken out to cars with no touch, no walk-ins, so people kept utilizing it. We had some communication snafus, I think, with HealthStat. Some of the reports I thought came automatically really don't, but now they will. Shockingly to me, and I guess I wasn't listening or paying attention somewhere, our patient satisfaction survey and our cost report, not our cost of what we pay, but our cost in comparison to had somebody went somewhere else to get the service. That report does not come unless we asked for it. So I don't have as much data on the patient, but overall it was positive. I included what I had for you. There are only 2 negative results. One was from, I'm pretty sure, a spouse who came in to do their health risk assessment, not happy at all about that. Cynthia was pretty sure. And then the other one we don't know, but they did not have complaints to HealthStat, so that's what happened. We also had, then we're not able to show you all the financials, but we will be able to catch us up once we get the next report that we asked for. But all, excuse me for one moment, please.
The negatives of
parenting. Sorry, my wife is not home this evening. So we'll be able to catch you up next time, but Andy and I were very, very hopeful that January and February were going to show months where we were actually in the black, meaning every visit we had, when taken in totality, would have shown, boy, we actually saved money. People were not going to and using United Healthcare. They were using our service. So things were heading in the right direction, trending in the right direction. I'm optimistic. I'm not optimistic for next quarter, but I'm optimistic that our employees are going to keep using the Health and Wellness Center. We've just seen wonderful results so far, and I'm hoping once we get through this, we'll start moving back in the right direction. So hopefully I covered everything in there. Oh, I wanted to mention we did a survey. We asked all of our staff, not just those with healthcare, do you want to get a flu shot next year? If so, we'll do it on site in your building, and Cynthia and the med assistant will do them. We just placed an order with HealthStat, so we'll be doing that for everybody who wants a shot next year. So that's kind of an added bonus to those who don't have our healthcare.
Are we going to be doing anything as far as maybe some communication, encouraging people to use the facility during the summer?
We do it ongoing.
Okay.
So we have an ongoing communication plan we try to change it up so that it doesn't look the same every month. We're reminding people. I'm pretty sure sports physicals dropped a little bit more. than we normally would have for children, just because of the uncertainty and then getting people live into the, into the facility. And I think they waived them for a lot of sports.
Troy, I think at one point people had been a little concerned with taking a survey after they were seen. Should we be concerned that you feel like you know that one of the negative responses is a spouse of someone who had a health risk assessment? It concerns me a little bit that we can pinpoint where the negative responses come from. Or will it make people apprehensive about filling that out because they don't feel it's as confidential?
It's a great question, Jane. What I did was I called Cynthia and I said, boy, it's very, very unusual to see all ones, because you can see that somebody selected all ones. And there were 2 instances of that. And I said, does anything stand out? Is there anything like, did you have any complaints? And that's really all you could think of. We don't know who it is. But she said, yeah, the guy was very, very angry, and they were doing their best to just try and usher him out the door at that point.
So we walk a fine line too between trying to be someone that's really responsive to complaints that we may receive, or just giving a survey and ignoring them. So it's a tough spot, but it's a point well taken. Yeah.
Yeah, there is absolutely no way for us to identify though who the people are.
Out of curiosity, what was the response rate for the flu shots in the fall? Do you know how many?
Yes, and it wasn't as good as I thought it was. Oh God, we just ordered Andy. I don't know if you remember.
Approximately 250 is the number I think I recall.
But I think too, the choice to offer them to folks beyond our insurance plan, I think that's a really thoughtful, responsive thing for us as an employer to do. I know that was information that had been shared with Troy and Andy. People thought, well, okay, what about us? So I think that's a good responsive step the team made to try to extend a benefit that benefits everyone. And I think it'll grow. I think if we do it a couple years in a row, I'd like to see I'll go over there and get mine. So it's a good thing.
Well, people are starting to see the convenience of that right there. Instead of having to run 10 miles away or something, they're finding convenience, and they're finally thinking, wow, I can do this. This is easy. So once they figure out that it's very convenient for them to go there and then other places, it'll be utilized a lot more.
I think Darren's right. I think in time, this will be one of those things that if we tried to take it away, people would be furious. We just have to get used to the benefit that it is, the great benefit that it is. So,
it's Troy. I got a question for you. There was 1 or 2 people that said the quality of the employees. Are we looking more at the background of these, employees that were, managing this wellness center? I know we talked about it last time. I was just curious, is it getting better?
I would say yes. We are getting incredibly great feedback about Cynthia. We've asked HealthStat to work with our medical assistant, and that person's also shown great improvement. And back when we made the decision to retain her for the time being, that was pre-COVID also. So it was a pretty flush. The labor market was packed. There wasn't a lot of room to get people. Med assistants were getting harder and harder to find. So we thought, let's try and invest more time and effort into the medical assistant, and we had shown improvement. But if you see some of the concerns, that was one concern by somebody. Somebody in the last round had said that.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you very much, Troy.
You're welcome. If you don't mind, I'm going to go and discipline some children. Thank you.
So Troy has a bright future in assistant principaling if we ever have to transfer him. So.
All right, next on the agenda is the Oak Creek Franklin School District and the city joint partnership on the recreation programming.
Let me pull up that situation report. So Andrew Vickers and myself have been talking for the better part of a couple of years about several joint city school district ventures. As most of our board knows, if not all of our board, we have a memorandum of understanding that has a rollover feature that at one point we were attacking, and then we set off to the side as some other projects were coming up to try to run all of those concurrently. So in March, Andrew was made aware that his recreation director was leaving. And this was one of the big pieces that we had talked about. Really, Heather and I, since I had come on board, is that there was some disjointed recreation programming with the city compared to what the school district offered. We have always, as a school district, tried to keep ours in that K4 to 12th grade range, so our students, so in working with the community, with our students, and there was some crossover with city. And then because of that crossover, there was certainly some phone calls the city is receiving regarding our program, and conversely, we're receiving phone calls regarding city's program, and it never really meshed. So we'd like it to fit pretty seamlessly, but it was kind of disjointed. And so this was a great opportunity for us to say to Andrew, we can provide that service if we work in partnership. So we would need some of the city's help in the form of some guidance on programming outside of that K4 to 12th grade range, because that's not something that we normally do. We're kind of looking for a whole life experience, but putting it all in one location. And so a thought primer is attached to this. I'm not going to pull that up and go bullet point by bullet point, but I'll give you a summation of that. Youth programs, as it's currently named, would change its name to something along the lines of like Oak Creek Community Recreation. On that thought primer, you see a logo that combines the city's logo, our youth programs logo, night blue, city green, so that we're trying to really brand the partnership, but brand it as not necessarily a separate entity, but a joint entity of the two. Ultimately, Heather would be responsible of programming from whole life. So cradle to grave, as Cheryl would like to move away from. Birth till we no longer want to enjoy recreational programming.
We always want to enjoy recreational programming.
Right. Inside of Heather's programming would be one, involvement of a committee that involves common council members and school board members and some community at large, so they can provide some direction to Heather. Not necessarily a voting board that would say, yes, you're doing this, yes, you're doing that, no, you're not doing this, no, you're not doing that. We're setting prices, but really a sounding board. She would still be responsible to us and would provide a yearly update to the common council as well. So we'd still have to go through some of our pieces of approving fees and things like that. It was really imperative for us to put upon the city that we consider open enrollment students our students, so that they would be included in this. Certainly, because Oak Creek the city was focused just on Oak Creek, our piece of Franklin also has to be included. So all of those are considered residents under this program, even though it'd be called something along the lines of Oak Creek Community Rec. So that was an important piece for us. The second really important piece, with Heather taking over the holistic piece, she still does a lot of things outside of just recreation, even though that's her title, for our district. And so imperative for us to house that program here on site. And all of the links, whether at the city or on our district page, can all funnel to the same place. The phone numbers can go to the same place, but we need to have Heather on site. The city requested that we take a look at the 3 remaining employees that they have in their community rec program. And so we've said, yes, that's a really important piece for us. We don't know if they'll work in the same capacity as they would at the city, or even if they're interested in it, but they have some knowledge of programs we don't have. Senior programming would be a great example. We haven't done that. They have somebody on staff who has knowledge of what that looks like, what they've done. And like most things, when you take a program over, your goal isn't to entirely reshape the program when you bring it on. It's to understand it, understand what's going on, learn a little bit more about it, try to run as much of it as you can. And over time, it will start to take shape into what the new melded program will look like. And so that's really our goal with this long term, is to work with the city. Financially, The city spends about $370,000 on their entire program, and they levy somewhere around $190,000. It's important to note that the remainder of that is made up of fees, just like our program is made up of fees. So we levy a little bit to pay for our student resource officers, and the rest of our program is made up of fees. So the city has committed to putting most of that particular tax levy in. But it's important to note, out of their expenses, the recreation director will not be a cost anymore. Heather's already costed in our model. We would just be adding the expenses of their potential 3 individuals and then all of the people it takes to run it, just like all the people it takes to run our programs. So from a financial standpoint, we haven't nailed through the final details, but it looks pretty seamless. We would be able to fit it in under our current model and be able to make it thrive and survive, just like we are currently doing now. So we don't see that as a particular issue to stay concerned about. We really think it's a great idea for the city. It's really kind of our first kind of super joint venture of taking something that both of us ran and trying to turn it into one. We anticipated moving into the MOU at some point as an amendment to it, so a full attachment, Amendment A or something like that, as it's going to be a pretty big program. It's not, we're going to cut some grass over here, you're going to use some of our facilities over here. It's a pretty big piece. We're talking at, by the time it's all said and done, probably $1.3 million of our million and their 300,000. So we don't want to just melt it in a couple of words. We want it to be some sort of freestanding portion of the MOU, easily recognizable. So we're pretty excited. Heather's ready to, if we're not looking for an approval tonight, we're looking for some questions, some things we need to think about as we try to finalize an agreement that we would take in front of the board. But Heather's really ready to take it head on and start doing some of the planning. They have committed to taking planning over for the fall, but we would need to have some sort of semblance of what it would look like for the winter. And so, as I mentioned earlier, running their programs as they have and trying to fit them in as best we can with ours in the immediate future, and then melding them into our new Oak Creek community recreation programming is where we would ultimately take it.
So is this like everything in the Acorn, it'd be under our you know what I'm saying? Like everything there is ours ran, because Acorn has everything from the city and from the parks and the rec and blah blah blah. So
we would not run the Acorn, but we would take the recreation programming pieces of it.
That's what I mean. All those programs in there.
Right.
Ideally, yes. Okay. Whether they stay in their current form or not.
Again, no, I understand. I'm just thinking all those programs that are sitting in that book. There's a lot of programs there. They would all transfer over to the school district, working in with unison with the city at the same time.
Right. Correct. So we would be working with the city. One, again, they have 3 part-time employees that work outside of their full-time director. So working with them and then getting their roster, so to speak, of their recreation programming staff so that we can bring them on board. So we're not going to find a keyboarding teacher or all of these classes, other classes that they teach. We need to get their roster of individuals that do that as well, so that we have the pipeline to staff it and make it flourish.
Are we going to...
Would those part-time employees become our employees?
Can't hear you, Amy.
Amy, I can't hear you.
Yep, I can repeat Amy's question. So Amy asked, would those part-time employees become our employees? So yes, that was one of the conversations too. And we felt it more beneficial for if we're going to manage the program, Heather needs to be able to manage the staff under her management style, and they need to be held accountable to her being able to hold them accountable through the employee piece. And so they would fall under us. And then all of the things that we do for our employees that would fit in the same categories as these individuals.
Do we have room for those employees to come here?
Like physical space?
Office space.
Well, that desk you're in is going to have to move out into, yes, we would figure out how
anyways.
We would figure out where we would put them. So if you look at its current arrangement, like we would just have to figure out how to make some space for them. So, we would be able to do that. It's really important for us to have Heather on site, and then obviously for her to manage her employees. To have them in 2 different buildings would be a difficult task.
Right.
And they are part-time employees, so they wouldn't necessarily be all here at the same time.
My question is, Heather already does a great job in managing all the things that she does for our district. How much extra work is this going to put on her? I kind of want to make sure we're balancing work-life balance. Honestly, this is a growing project and a growing thing we have to look at, but I just want to make sure we kind of document how much time is spent so that we're not overloading her.
Yep, I'll let Heather take that, and I don't want to speak on her behalf.
Well, outside of moving my cot into the office, no, I'm kidding. What I'm really looking at is relying a lot on the staff that they have and looking to see where their areas of specialty are and being able to bring them on board and kind of balance. The nice thing about this break that we've had right now is going to give us some time to really review what we want to offer and how we want to offer it. So while it is going to be an additional responsibility and extended responsibility, I think it is doable. And a lot of other area communities run it through the school district for a lot of reasons. And it certainly is doable. It's going to need to have everybody on board and making it happen, but it is doable.
And then I'm assuming that there might be some options for doing some like co-op programs. Because living in Franklin and I see what they have, and a lot of times some of their classes are co-opt with Muskego, sometimes with Oak Creek, things like that.
So before we really moved to a kindergarten to 12th grade model, we did a lot of co-oping with Franklin for our computer classes and adult cooking classes and other things. So we're familiar with that. And Andy Cromie had mentioned the need for us to kind of get their vendors into our system so that we know who they use and how best to partner with either freestanding programs or with local communities and others that want to partner co-op with us.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a really nice collaboration between the city and the school district, attending that meeting. I do want to, one point is July 1st. Is that the cutoff for the fall schedule? Did she say, Heather?
No, not well. For July 1st is the date that they have for their fall acorn, right? But that's not necessarily like that's not the youth programs schedule. So fall for us would be each kind of doing their own, with us kind of observing how it's done, how they work, and transitioning to the winter spring being the first that we offer jointly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because it's coming up in like 2 weeks, 10 days.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. No, so ours is a later deadline right now for our fall programs, but the acorn comes out a little bit earlier, which will mean, Darren, you had kind of alluded to this, the items that are in the acorn, those would be our programs then that we're putting into their acorn. So our timing will need to adjust to what their printing schedule is. The nice thing is that goes out to every resident in Oak Creek, and then our catalog also goes out to anybody within the district. So we would be able to give to both groups.
All right.
Good.
So is the city getting out of the recreation business? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Yes. Yes. They would continue to rent their facilities and still have the parks as a open play space area, but the programming would be with the school district.
So you'd have first shot at renting the ball fields and stuff like that the city owns?
For our purposes,
yes,
correct.
For recreation purposes.
So like the Kickers soccer fields, we would be able to access for our soccer programs, because right now we don't have one, which would be lovely.
Yep.
So there's some other spaces that we can use for our programming.
Okay. I just remember years ago, the city ran it all. And then now it's just like script is flipped. Now the school district finally took over, which I believe should have always been like that.
Right.
Facility usage will be very similar to how we have our facilities, where we have first access to them, whether it's for our co-curriculars, our youth programs, and then we follow a litany of steps into getting everybody in. So very similar with the cities. If we were to use a park or things like that, we would have to notify them by X date that we're going to be hosting this in a park. We'll get put on the park, and then they would put that out for rentals, just like we would put our facilities out for rental.
The city is going to continue to rent their own facilities, as are we in the youth programs department or Oak Creek Rec Department going to be reserving the facilities for the school district for the community use.
Okay, any other questions?
No, I'm good.
Good. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on there is the Nexus quarterly update referendum projects.
So we have a slideshow prepared for you tonight. So let me get it up here. That was put together from Brett Warren, who is our construction manager of Nexus. He oversees all of our projects. So we'll just go through some of the wonderful things that are going on at the buildings we currently have under construction. We'll give you a little update of what is to come. So Edgewood, fully done. The gym has been done, the exterior, for a while. What you see here really is some final landscaping, and then the hard surface.
We don't see nothing.
I don't see anything.
Oh, sorry. I'll tell you why. Because I have to exit out of this and show a different screen, I believe. Sorry.
Hey, everybody.
And let's see if I can present my entire screen. Now you should be able to see it.
Oh,
It's coming.
Yeah, we see it.
There you go.
now we go.
Okay, so here are the facilities that we currently have under construction, and then again, we'll give you a little update of what's coming. So Edgewood, again, the exterior of the gym has been done for quite some time, but one of the final pieces of getting occupancy is to have hard surface around it. So around the doors, so here are the exit doors, so you can see our hard surface. This will be leading into the gym, and then the north end over here is where our old cafeteria is, or really will be our cafeteria and multi-purpose room. So just some of the landscaping that's there. This is the parking lot to the back side, and then you can see the high school on the far end over here.
They couldn't redo that whole parking lot?
Well, we could have done the whole parking lot, but again, everything comes with what is the lifespan of the remaining parking lot versus cost versus all of those things get weighed in to try to make projects fit within the budget. So
Are you gonna paint it black with tar to make it look good? That looks kind of weird.
it could have been done. We can take a look at it, but at this point, it was not done, just given the lifespan of the remaining parking lot.
We got a couple months before school starts. People are gonna look at that whole project and say, "Wow, it's beautiful. Why didn't they fix this little part?" That's just my personal opinion. Maybe tar over it and make it match the new, so it all looks new. Lipstick and rouge, that's all it is.
Well, we could take a look at that for sure. Inside the gym. So these, one point to note, the basketball stanchions are going to be moved out to 2 feet, so they're tight to the wall right now, so they'll get updated. So all of the gyms will then have those side backboards moved out, so they're 2 feet, so that students aren't colliding with the wall, as is noted. Gym floor get repainted to include a 3-point line. You can see that that's not on here, so we'll update that as well. And so all of the gyms will then have those same particular features. This is the inside of the current cafeteria. That'll be finished by August, middle of August, so that it would be ready for the upcoming school year. Again, this is just the north side of that, showing the inside of the cafeteria. Meadowview gym, same as Edgewood. Exterior hard surface got fixed by egress, so you can see how that around. This would be looking towards the west. Inside of the gym, again, we'll get 2-foot stanchions here on the back, and the 3-point line will be updated on the floor, so they'll resurface that. Here's their particular area as we're looking at it now. Again, same picture from a different side, or same building and facility from a different side. Here's Shepard Hill Gym. Hard surface is ready to be put in, parking lot, and any additional concrete work is ready to be put in. This would be looking towards the southwest. This would be the entrance just outside of the gym over here and lead to the lower level. Here's their particular gym. 3-point line is already in here. We'll have the 2-foot stanchions added to the backboards.
Who's paying for the cost of this painting and the stanchions and stuff?
So the stanchion is as just part of the building project to get them right. They're small now, 6 inches or something, to move those out to 2 feet. That's our cost to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I know they need to be moved out, but I'm wondering why it wasn't noticed before they got put in.
Yeah, I would say probably because there's about 5,000 specs that come with every gym.
Okay.
And it was something that was just overlooked by several eyes that were looking at that. And then when you get it in the gym and you walk in, it's like it's an eyesore right off the bat.
Okay.
And so something I had to get fixed. It has been updated for Carrolton and Cedar Hills to make sure that that's automatically updated to 2 feet.
Okay.
Ultimately, I'm glad it got caught, and I'm also glad Ann pointing it out. You know, like it was found and it needed to get fixed.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Will they be able to swivel backwards against the wall, like when there's like a game going in that gym or something, practice or something with like someone renting the facility because they may not need all the backwards?
Say that
Okay,
again.
so you got the ones against the wall. You say you're going to bring them out 2 feet. I understand that. Will they be able to recess back to the wall if you like to do that?
They will not be. They are. Yep.
So they're permanent out. Okay.
So here are footings being poured for the ADA ramp. So the entrance to Shepard Hills, as we currently know it, has been updated. So this is just a footing picture. Here's the wall going in, and then this is what the ramp looks like up to those doors. So it's an ADA accessible entrance. Again, that was one of the big points of our referendum, was trying to provide ADA accessibility to our facilities, both in and out.
There'll be a railing there, correct?
Correct. Yep. Put a railing on there. These are going to be some wild pictures you're going to see in the next 3 to 4. So this is what Shepard Hills looked like with walls up.
Wow.
Pretty neat. Pretty neat. This is what it looked like when they stripped all of the walls out. So remember, all the walls in Shepard Hills were essentially portable walls. So if you were standing in a classroom, you could easily tell what was happening in the classroom next door to you. Completely gutted. It's like an apartment store, really, with some pillars holding up the roof, and then completely wide open. And so, again, another picture inside of a school building. And then we start to see it get framed here. And now we're putting on some drywall with that. So now we're getting back to what does it look like to be a school? Bathroom tile was several of the bathrooms were completely retiled at Shepard Hills. Given some of the tiles were starting to bow out, we're already coming loose. So when we went and did the inspection, rather than spend hours and hours and hours for someone determining which of the small tiles to pull off, it was more cost efficient to actually strip the whole bathroom and retile some of them. Just given the timing of it and what it looks like when you abate. So all of those also were attached with a with asbestos backing. And so when abatement comes in to do tile work, they just start shredding tile off the wall until it doesn't really fall anymore. So often your 2-foot strip becomes a 4-foot strip pretty easily. So when you add all those factors in, it makes sense to redo some bathrooms top to bottom. So here's
you put an Italian tile in there.
I sure hope not. I would have to look up the spec on that, but no, I would assume.
I think it's beautiful.
You could go buy it at most tile stores. Just kitchen tile floor being redone in there. Cafeteria ceiling painting. So again, their cafeteria is being turned into a multi-purpose room cafeteria rather than a gymnasium cafeteria. Parking lot curb and concrete. So this is all being redone, and the playground as we know it is being moved or has been moved, given the hard surface that's going to be going in.
In those cafeterias, were they putting in, was there going to be like soundproofing and that's something to help like muffle the sound?
Yeah, they had, I don't know what they're called, clouds or something they call them,
Right.
ceiling tiles that help quell the noise so that's not just ricocheting off sheet metal at the top.
Right. Thank you.
This is the turf of the baseball field through the backstop. This would be the softball diamond. This is taken down the third baseline. The turf is wonderful. Here you can see the concession stands, the stands themselves, and the press boxes for this particular athletic complex. Lights are actually something really cool to see. When they put those in, they hold some sort of like stick at home plate, and all of those lights have lasers on them, and they turn them individually until all the lasers hit the one point on the stick at home plate, and then they can like lock them into place. It's pretty cool to watch that. It looks like a light show out there that all remits to one point, and then all the lights are set. So that's pretty cool how they do that. Our soccer field. So this was a seeded soccer field. So it's important to note seed takes about 12 months. But our goal is to be able to play games on this in the fall, but not practice on it. So if we were to practice on it and have lots of teams playing on it, that's going to chew it up quite a bit, given it is pretty new. But our goal is to at least try to get some games played on it so that our students will have access to it. But again, it was seeded. So seeding just takes a little bit longer than if when you sod things, and that attaches in about 6 to 8 weeks. The auto shop edition, this is going on at the high school. Remember, we're moving to 5 bay, like a full height where they can lift cars up and actually work under them. So footings are in, walls are being built on that. In fact, these pictures were taken, walls could be completed. I haven't been over there in a couple of weeks. But the walls are being done for that. So that's getting pretty close. We're having actual equipment delivered in September for that edition. And so the students will work in the old portion of their building, but at some point during the year, our auto shop will be done and they'll transition over into the new auto shop already. So I don't have an exact ETA on that, but I would guess somewhere around January, they would be able to transition, which would be pretty cool to be in there. So just another picture of that. The PAEC edition, we are having footings dug for that. Everything seems to be going very well with that. We've had a couple of run-ins. We mentioned one about a year ago when they dug the Meadowview gym, and we had to do some remediation with the soil. And we had to do a little bit of remediation at Shepard Hills with the soil as well. The PAEC, which would be the largest piece of all of our additions, everything is going really well there. Question, Jane?
Is that attached at all to the high school, or is it completely freestanding?
It'll be attached on the east wall. So you may have seen like an excavator digging right next to the wall. So they'll pour footings like they would any building, but those footings are poured with the footings of the current building. They'll essentially build it all at once, and then they tie it. They'll build a PAEC, and at some point they'll tie that in to whether, I can't remember if it's a corridor or if it's a fully tight adhered building, but they'll tie that all in at the end like they would the additions that they've done at the other facilities. But so everything will be connected. So here are some of the footing frames and the initial structure walls that we can see being framed here. So the cafeteria expansion, this blue wall right here represents the original wall that's in the cafeteria. This would be where the big night was that we can recall. So that this wall is actually considered a shear wall. So a shear wall helps the building maintain its structural integrity. We'd be in a really high winds tornado. And so we can't fully take that wall out. So what we'll see here is these posts are helping to hold that up. We kept about 6 feet on each side of that wall, and then they're going to put a couple of posts down the middle that will help support that and maintain its integrity. Otherwise, we would have removed it in its entirety. So this takes away that there was some multi-purpose space here, about 30 feet wide or so, that's pushing the cafeteria back to alleviate some of the pressure. We're also going to put an updated cooking station back there to help alleviate some of the pressure at the east end of the cafeteria for food service. And again, it'll provide a different type of station. So we're putting in what's called a smokeless grill. So we'll actually have a chef prepare some meals like live in front of kids back there. And just do a little bit of a different service. I'm not sure if it falls under the chef or the premium meal, but one of those two meals will be done back there to give our students another offering. This is just another view of that wall. We can see those posts are now in the middle. And again, that's the 6 feet of that initial wall that had to be maintained. Corridor flooring. So we put in LVT. One of the nice things about LVT is it does not need to be stripped and waxed. So every summer, many of our custodians spend about 20 hours a week in their building. So if we think about that over a summer of 8 weeks, 160 hours stripping and waxing the floors in their building. Our custodians that have LVT in here are going to be transitioned into doing something else because other than sweeping it, there's not a whole lot of maintenance that needs to be done for it. So that gives our buildings and grounds director and our custodial director some opportunity to review kind of our holistic buildings and grounds department and see how we can leverage those additional hours and how we can help do some other projects that we have either been putting off because we haven't had the time or necessarily the labor to do it. So pretty cool that'll save that. So again, just more corridor pictures in the high school. This is outside the main entrance. This is what our current locker room looks like, and these next two. Here's refinished, so we refinished the floor. They go back and they seal all the tile to make sure that's all good, and increases its lifespan. Just another picture of a very similar thing. We put some high efficiency water heaters in for our domestic hot water. So those are what feed our sinks to help increase efficiency rather than run water through the boiler. That helps heat that. We don't have to keep those on all summer. We can use just water heaters like we would in our home, other than their high efficiency. And then obviously maintained for a building that'll have 2,000 students in it. Library in the carpet and the ceilings. So this is getting some work. I know they were working on improving the flow of the library as well and providing some different areas so they can do different things other than just having stacks and stacks of books, which our libraries, while they'll have some of that, are typically going away from that. We're becoming much more STEM focused in there. So they'll have some maker space and some other 3D printing type of things in there, some cooler things, more technology for our students. The high school office is getting a little bit of a remodel as well. So when you walk in the high school office, that counter that's immediately to your right is being shoved back so that it's actually flush with the corridor hallway at the back. And then we're putting an attendance desk right in front. So right now there's a wall and you would walk through the door if you want to get into the offices. That'll be a half wall. So essentially like an L half wall in the front to get back there, provide a little bit separation between students and parents that come into the building or other guests. So students will go to the attendance side. Everybody else can come over here rather than it just muddled all at the front. So this is where that new attendance area will go. So we took out that entire wall. This just happens to be an overflow drain from the roof that they'll reroute so that that doesn't stick out. In there, they'll recarpet all of that. We'll get cabinetry in the back as well, so they have some of their storage that comes back into that office area. Again, this is carpet removed. This is the new wall that's built. Again, shoved back so you can see that it's flush with the corridor hallway. This is the gym addition that's going on at Carrolton. So that was already planned to be started in April. So regardless of whether school was shut down or not, we had worked with Mr. Kenwood to determine how the flow of all of that construction is going to happen. So we've already been there digging footings. They're already putting walls in. And that'll work for both the gymnasium and then the office addition that's getting added at Carrolton. So that's already been underway. Carrolton's all getting some classroom windows. Quite a bit of abatement at Carrolton is being done as well. So again, anytime we're going to touch something, it's always prudent if we can get out all of the bad stuff that's in there right away. Anytime it's under construction, it's a whole lot cheaper to do it then. Library window picture. Some classroom HVAC soffits and floors is going to get redone. So these are just some pictures of the work that's being done at Carrolton. They're getting some ADA doors that are working in there as well. This is the parking stalls that'll be to the east of the kind of loop in the front. That'll have some parking for visitors coming, some ADA parking as well. So we can see that set right here.
It's nice.
East Middle School is getting an entire parking lot repavement done, top to bottom. That includes the loop that'll go around the south and to the east. All of that is getting done. It's getting done in 2 stages, so there will be access to east at all times. And then we're working with Ms. Thompson to determine the flow of traffic. So as you know, it was flipped around this year because of the work being done at the middle school fields. So it's verifying with her whether this traffic flow worked better or if we're going to revert to the other traffic flow that we had previously. So I know Mr. Rohde's working on that with her, but that's getting done this summer.
So there'll be appropriate signage then for people going to those fields, so they know how to get in there.
It'll all be re-signed, and if signs that are posted in the ground have to be turned around, those will just be taken care of and moved around, and then obviously striped and arrowed appropriately depending on the traffic flow.
Okay.
The final project that we have bid is Cedar Hills. That comes in Monday. We'll review those on Tuesday. So that'll be Steve and I and Dan. We'll take a look at those. From what we were informed of, there was a lot of bidders for Cedar Hills. So like anything, the more bidders that show up and do a walkthrough, typically the more bids you get, the lower the prices in general, because they know they have to come in against a lot of competition. So we're expecting some pretty good bid options to choose from. Just a little history on the bidding background or how it works. We will take Cedar Hills, and it's probably broken into 10 to 13 parts. So there's like a gymnasium or an addition part. There's an asphalt part. So all of those pieces are broken out, and we will it's like picking and choosing when you go to the store. We're going to pick this contractor for the building. We're going to pick this contractor for the asphalt. So all of those individual pillars really have to bid against people that do pavement. So it's not a holistic project where they might be able to up the pavement charge because they're really good at making a gym. The people that are good at making a gym are going to get the gym, and the people that are good at making the parking lot are going to get the parking lot. So we've done all of our bids like that, where there's multiple contractors working on that with Nexus overseeing it. It's one of the benefits of having the contract arrangements we have. We can break that all up.
Right.
Where if we just have a general, they're going to go out and hire their subcontractors outside of our scope of getting to see what those particular bids look like.
Bid day is a hotly anticipated day. We get to all sit down together and figure out, well, how are we going to do? So this is very good news on this particular bid package Andy's sharing now. So it doesn't always go that way, and we're due for a good one. So
are there contractors who, for ease of numbers, let's say you had 10 projects there, that a contractor might have said, I will do each of them for $2,000, but if you give them all to me, I will do it for 17,000 versus 20. And then how does that work when you're talking about you're breaking these things up?
Sure. So we do not have a single contractor that will do them all, but there are contractors that will say, yes, we would do this and this and this. And so what happens during the bid process is Brent will come back to us and say, here are the bids. Here are the cheapest ones if we do individually. But so-and-so contractor reached out and said, if you were to package these two, they could make it work for this. Or we say, wow, this bidder was really close on this particular bid. Go back and tell them if we were to give them both, could they match that particular price? Or could they beat that price? And so there's the ability to go back and negotiate that. And we take some of your leads. Our buildings and grounds director is a pit bull in these particular meetings. And so Dan and I rely quite heavily on him, as we've leaned on him heavily during the Nexus project. And so one of my favorite things to do during these meetings is to look over at Steve and just read his face, and then we go from there. But he has a pretty good beat on it.
Good. Awesome.
Andy's not exaggerating at all. Steve Rohde has done a spectacular job since he's come on board. And during these construction projects, especially everything else that's going on in the district, like we're very lucky to have Steve right now. So.
Yep. Thank you.
So the final slide is just a reminder of our project timeline. This would include both our revenue limit exemption, which is essentially our HVAC and boiler pieces, as well as our referendum pieces. All of the green is in the construction phase. So again, Cedar Hills is our last piece to go out to bid, but Cedar Hills, Oak Creek High School addition, and Carrolton will all be finished in a similar time frame of next year. One last note, one of the few nice pieces that came out of school closure was our ability to get into the interiors of Carrolton, the high school, and Shepard Hills early. So last year was like a mad rush around August 24th to get into our buildings for our teachers. Our goal is to have those available somewhere around August 10th, August 12th. So our teachers have a couple of extra weeks before school starts. If we can do better than that, even better. But the ability to get in early and squeeze some of the projects back was one of the few benefits that came out of the school closure. So we'll take any of those little shining stars that we can and provide as much back to the staff as we can, given all the changes that have happened to them.
Yeah.
Andy, what's the process if a teacher notices, like let's say the basketball hoops? I had a teacher say that there are cubbies or something that were installed at, I think, Meadowview and Edgewood, if those are the mirror schools. Mm-hmm. And one of them was installed this way, and in the other school, they were installed the other way. Not sure which was the right way and the wrong
Sure.
way, but obviously one of them is installed upside down. If teachers notice things, or anyone, I guess, notices things, what's the process for having them corrected if it was just an oops or?
Yep. So given the scale of $60 million are going to be things that are going to happen, right? So teachers or staff in the building outside of the custodial or maintenance department should go to the principal. The principal will either work with their custodian to work that through our buildings and grounds department. Our custodians and maintenance take it right to our buildings and grounds director. As I mentioned, he's a pit bull, so he goes right after them, and it's usually about 4 seconds. He's got the picture and he sent it off to them and said, this needs to be fixed, and like leaves it at that. And they've spent enough time with him to know what that means.
And now's the time, while we have people working and on site, if we catch stuff, this is when it needs to be corrected. So.
Yeah. And so that's when the typical practice is the principal will just contact our buildings and grounds, and then we'll send it off to them and say, hey, this doesn't look right. Can you take a look at this? Or, what we try to catch them before teachers are in the building. But again, in $60 million, we're not going to catch everything.
So Andy, I have 4 things I want. You did address a couple. One, like Jane, Edgewood and Meadowview cubbies were upside down installed. 2, the other one that I'm actually shocked is the sod at the baseball field.
Yep.
How horrible it looks. I just drove down there, and so I got multiple calls about it. I'm just shocked that I hope we don't cut a check, but Nexus hiring just a landscaping company when they should have hired a baseball landscaping company to do the sod correctly.
So we've given Nexus till August 15th to have a completely playable field. If they don't have a completely playable field by August 15th, our intention is to go get it taken care of right and send them the check or send them the bill. And so we've been out multiple times. We kind of had we'll call it a come to Jesus meeting on Thursday with them. And that's where we left it with them.
Yeah.
And Steve and I are going out on Wednesday morning to meet with their contractor and Nexus and have us all on the same page, so we're all speaking the same language.
Yeah, it's horrible. I mean, I called Steve. I know you know that. So I appreciate that. You talked about the court, which I'm just shocked they don't put a 3-point line on there, but now they got to redo the whole thing. I'm hoping they're paying for it and all that.
So nope, those pass through inspection without the painting on it. So we are, but it's actually a pretty good deal. So a basketball court costs probably $5,000 to $6,000 to stripe and line, and they're going to redo it for $2,000. Given that passed through Scott, Steve, and Scott, Larry, and I would just assume they would get on there. But they didn't, so we have it inspected to Carrolton now and Cedar as well.
And the landscaping in high school. So obviously, I'm talking about where the soccer field is and the retention pond. They put they had a hill where they put the flagpoles up, right? And they put all this grass down and landscaping, right? So now it's like tons of weeds. Are they going to come back and look at all that? Because I noticed it's not coming in right now because it's been dry all the whole week. I just looked at it yesterday, and I'm just saying it doesn't look that attractable, right? And so I'm just wondering if they're going to come and address that, because that's front and center of everything we do. So.
I don't know, so we can put that on to Steve and just let him know.
That'd be great.
And he can have that reviewed.
I appreciate
so Frank, we'll bring it to Steve's attention, and it won't take much, for high vis areas.
No, I understand.
I'm not being critical at all. I'm being completely supportive. Your point is 100% well taken. These are important, highly visible places.
Yeah.
They should be visually appealing. That's just not. Steve understands what others in this room and Andy and everyone has expressed many times, which is you should expect it to be done correctly, expect excellence, right? So,
well, I mean, I got to make it real clear. Steve was, I think he responded to me in 8 minutes after I said about the pictures of the sod.
Yep.
And I just put down, I'm not happy. And he got on it. I mean,
100% the same page. So,
absolutely terrible.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions?
Will this presentation be attached so that the public can see it?
Yeah, I think Lindsay uploads them after we go through them with the board to our construction tab inside of the district webpage.
This was awesome. Thank you.
All right, Andy, why don't you do the May budget report?
Let me
Keep
just
going, Andy. You're doing such a good job tonight.
Sorry, Dan.
All right.
All right. So can everybody see this?
Yep.
Okay.
Are you
so
kidding?
revenues are
Nobody
right on-
can see that. That's like a 4 font.
It's called this.
All right, walk us through it, Andy.
So revenues are right on where we have been for the last 2 years, about 69% or so in Fund 10, about 75 or so percent in Fund 27, and overall close to 70%. So we're doing fine there. Expenses, again, we're tracking a little bit lower than we were last year at this point, but I just want to reiterate the point one more time because I think it's really important to tell this $4.3 million that's in supplies last year. Again, that was prepaying items that we were purchasing for the referendum. So repaying some of our Nexus construction or pre-funding some of our Nexus construction bills prior to taking out debt service in an effort to save interest payments on those. So because we have cash on hand, we were able to do that and then save that interest on those debt payments, which again, that was funneled a savings right back to our taxpayers. So it's important to note, I think there, if you recall, when I first came on board, there was some concern about how we budgeted for utilities, and we had a lot of questions on that. Utilities, as you can see, are about 1.9 million less than they were, or 190,000 less than they were last year at this particular time. Some of that is due to the high efficiency items that we put in. Another piece of that was gas. Natural gas is extremely low at this particular point. So we're trending really well on utilities. We have also engaged in purchasing some long-term gas as well. So Steve, our facilities director, has gone through and taken a look at that. And so essentially, pre-funding some of it, so to speak, now so that we get it at a lower cost long term. So you buy its futures, really is what you're doing. And then, it can't escalate past a certain point. And so we buy some of our natural gas. So we've done that for a long time in Oak Creek, and almost every school district does that. So with gas being slow now, it's really advantageous to keep looking at that and trying to lock in for a longer term rate on that. So utilities are trending really well. As you know, our transportation was down about 400,000 this particular year. So you can see we're down 400,000 between now and the end. That was due to our school closures. And then we had gone through and discussed right way to quite some degree a couple of different times, and ultimately settled at 52% of what our final payments would have been. But all in all, our expense was just fine. Again, being self-funded, we will be able to audit those costs for the 2019-2020 school year, and we will determine what that net result is at the end of June 30th. So when we take a look at our balance sheet, I don't know if we'll have it ready for our June one, but that takes about a month to close out all of our books. But certainly by August, we'll have an idea of what our new health insurance fund balance is. So right now it's 751,000. It's been a pretty good year for health, simply because things starting with COVID went to the wayside. So elective surgeries, really just people going to the doctor in general kind of subsided to a large degree outside of people going for COVID. We do get a weekly COVID update. We've had one person in our entire 1,000-person population test positive. At this point in time, we know it to be asymptomatic because it's been on the books for about 6 weeks, and another cost hasn't come through other than the testing cost of about $105 or something like that. So we'll cross our fingers that we don't get a COVID case that really affects an individual that's on our staff or an individual that's one of our dependents as well. But that's kind of ceased. We do expect a decent then return, so a pretty healthy fund balance for just our health insurance after this particular year. But we do anticipate 2020-21 to be a little bit higher because all those elective surgeries that were put off between March and June are going to come on at some point, either between July and December or into early next year. So I anticipate next year kind of balancing it out. So I don't necessarily hold a whole lot of weight on this particular year. It's really going to be more of what does 2019-20 look like with 2020-21. And when we put those 2 years together, that's where we're going to look for the wash. So at this particular time, we're doing really well. I do anticipate we'll be able to easily take our $359,000 Fund 38 payment. It's one of the things we've talked about, and move that into pay it now for relief of our general education funding for next year. So we have some extra general education dollars. That'll put us somewhere around $500,000 to the black for our 2020-21 budget. It is important to note, though, that we are still waiting on what does the budget repair bill look like from the state. So if we were to just run some raw numbers, education takes up about 20% of the state budget. And the state budget is very large. If we were to equate that to a public school child, that would be about a $600 reduction in state aid to a public school child, or for us, like $3.9 million. Now, I think that's like way far on the drastic side of what the state could potentially do. But Dan and I, in both the circles that we transpire in, whether district administrators or business officials, have heard up to $300 per child. So for us, that's about 1.8 or $1.85 million that could potentially be lost next year.
The hardest thing about this too is, like Andy paints these like the bleakest fence post points, right? The $600, the $150. I know many of you, Frank's talked to us a bunch of times about the uncertainty of the budget, the perils coming up, other people in this room. We just don't know. There's so much uncertainty associated with it. And we've been given very little to go on in terms of when we'll have a certain answer for this. It makes it very hard for us to plan or plot a course forward, to do anything other than to be extremely conservative in how we spend and plan going forward. So I'm sorry to interrupt, Andy. Keep going.
I was going to add, Dan and I have talked probably at Nod's particular point, because it comes up quite often from different constituents and different groups and whatever have you. And our thought process is, because education, public education is large, licenses are high, they're going to have to do something. I don't see how they can make us whole and chop this $1 billion for everybody else,
right,
without taking some of our education. But I also know that public school is the largest social program in the country, in time with the rest of the country regarding social programming. We have a really pro-education, right? Dan and I have kind of talked about it a lot. Probably we're going to be somewhere in the middle, $0 and $300, so probably around $150 per child. So for us, that's $930,000 that we're going to have to come up with to break even. So we know we have $500,000 or so kind of that we've held just open in the budget. But there's still $430,000 that we're anticipating probably having to do something with at some point. The scary part of it is the budget repair bill. We've been informed of it also with our insider that works with the legislators in Madison, has given us that the budget repair bill, if it comes forward, probably won't be enacted until January. Certainly after from what they've been told, the election, which we know is in November.
Right.
Our budget is set essentially at the end of our, we get our state aid certification on October 15th. So that's a scary preset. Well, come January 1, they could take $900,000. We're going to take that back.
So we're preparing for rain without knowing how bad the storm's going to be.
Right.
So the other piece that is really for us to note is the biennium budget for discussion, typically around the beginning of February. And so from a budgeting standpoint, we're going to go with what we know at the time that we know it, which we know we'll have on October 15th. We're going to prepare for a budget repair bill that's probably going to come in at about $930,000 to negative on January 1-ish. And then we also want to prepare ourselves with what does the biennium like, because that has the prospects of either keeping education whole, because it's really, it takes a million kids in the state of Wisconsin and educates them on many things, and equity being one of those.
Well, 1 million students and a workforce returning, right? And an absolutely essential community service, right? So here we are.
So we really want to wait until talks come around, and those talks come around typically at the beginning of February. It gives us a fairly reasonable platform to then make an assessment of what's going to come and be voted on around June or July 1st. And so one of the points that Dan's alluding to is raises come up around this time. What are we going to do? Raises, like that. And so I would lean heavily on saying at this point in time, we're not going to address those because we have so many unknowns that could negatively affect us. The budget repair bill alone, again, $930,000 is a big unknown. To me, the big difference is the biennium budget decides to come in flat. We could potentially tie ourselves up for 3 years then of this recurring cost without any additional revenue coming in. Now, in Oak Creek, we really haven't had anything. We made decisions internally that has some costs, changed the process. We haven't had a specific and when we're talking $1 million, something that comes out pain-free, right? Something, a program, something going to get hurt. So I think rather than put ourselves out there and say we're going to do this, I think it's probably prudent of us at this point to say let's hold back on that rather than cut something we just gave. Try to see who we are and what does the base look like, and then we can move forward from there once we have a foundation of what we think will happen or what actually will happen.
We can edge our way forward cautiously without making painful decisions before we have all the facts. That's what Andy and I have arrived at after pretty endless deliberation on this subject. This is in the midst of all that's going on. This has been yet another like agonizing discussion point. So it's very tough, like what we've asked people to give, and to find ourselves in a position where we're very uncertain and we just have to be cautious, pause, not make any rash decisions, be thoughtful. I really feel like we don't have many other options than to go forward in that kind of a way. So,
Andy, I have a question for you. We hire an employee that's 50 years old. She works for us for 5 years. She's 55. HRA wise, do we have to get to the max 90,000?
So I asked this question, and I haven't had to answer, I don't have an answer for how we get an HRA for that individual. I know that he has a breakdown like how many years we have to get it. How many years in that we try to get the max. So we'll have to bring that. We can probably talk about that.
No, this would be very easy for Troy to break down a standard answer for. Like, we have a number of employees, and I've talked to HRA so many times with so many people, especially after we updated the comp system. When people join us, there's a sum attached to them joining us, and it's different than when someone has been grandfathered here for many, many years. And those are the people that we targeted that sum for. And we can talk about that at another point when we have deeper background to go into it a little more deeply on it. But Frank's right. There's that's a big line item. So
correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So thank you, Andy, for this. I just want to make sure people understand the challenge that Andy faces when he has to build so many different budgets, facing so many different levels of like freeze or cut or whatever. It really compounds the work of the business manager, and he has been extraordinarily diligent in trying to prepare us for all these different scenarios that we have no definitive confirmation on what it will actually look like. So I know he's down there in his office with his abacus crunching his numbers, and it's not easy to build 5 different budgets. So thank you, Andy.
I just got to say, Andy, those information that you give us, like how many people use this insurance and, current employees, right? And then obviously part-timers, and then you give us information on retirees and what are they using and how what benefits are they going through, like are they using their health insurance, and then what are the co-pays, and then like you kind of said about we're doing well in the budget now. Obviously we're in doing on the positive side because everything's aka COVID, right? And we haven't been using a lot of health insurance, but that could change tomorrow, right? And so informing the board quicker than later, because I know for someone like me, I got to look at the numbers and really kind of like saying, okay, what do we have to look at as a board? I might come out with suggestions, Lee might come out with something, share all different. So the more information you can give to us earlier, on that, I really appreciate it, because I'm more of a number look at the graph kind of guy, and coming up, and that's how I come up with my ideas or suggestions. So the more you and Troy do that, I really appreciate that. So
You're welcome.
So, any other questions? All right. Review the upcoming school board meeting tentative agendas.
So when we're back on July 13th, the annual academic standard adoption will come around again. We're doing the calendar a little earlier than normal. We just anticipate a lot of people trying to reschedule different plans, that sort of thing. And if that's possible, we want to make it possible for people to do with populating our calendar. So Annalie and Lisa have been circulating this with the group they've worked with in the past, so we get a little ahead on calendar. Okay, you'll probably hear from folks on that. The calendar is one of those items. It's hard to please everybody, so that's out there in the distance.
And just make sure that whatever we come up with, it's not something that we're going to change a month later, like
that's been made very clear. So, and
Okay.
some folks, some pretty diligent people were pretty embarrassed that ended up happening in the first place. So you've got my word on that one. Handbooks, curriculum, board work study evening, right? So we have that coming around the bend. So we have a bunch of July meetings this year, but it's a good time to do a little head work. The 27th, we'll come back around those action items again. Retiree health plan participation overview. This is a discussion that was called for last year, right around the start of the school year. Annual meeting agenda, some donations, June financial report. So Andy, with maybe more information, maybe not. Like not a lot more to go on, but additional information there. And as you all know, we received some DPI information today regarding guidance for return to school. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this agenda grow a little bit on some important topics too as we go along. But these are the key things you can count on seeing. So.
And if we can maybe get an update, and again, I know this is a fluid situation, always changing, on how our athletics and extracurriculars might be affected.
So I had anticipated being able to share something with you regarding the WIAA July season. I don't know which meeting it'll fit in, but we'll definitely have learned something valuable, and we'll at least be able to talk about how we coordinated with the local health department to figure that conundrum out, because it's going to inform some of our work for fall too. It might be a good analogous lesson for how we're kind of working through fall. So I'll be able to think of something sports related for everybody.
Okay.
So.
From what I heard on the radio, the WIAA has put out guidelines for returning to fall sports starting in July. So Coach Collar probably has that, the AD. He probably has that, he's just not here tonight. But there is something out there, guidelines for everything.
No, we'll bring Mr. Holler in. We can talk about it. Yep.
It's in your inbox.
Right.
No worries. We'll bring them in. Okay.
All right, next agenda, the board will consider a motion to convene to executive session per Wisconsin statute 19.851C to discuss the evaluation of a superintendent.
And I made a note here, Frank, we need a roll call vote for this one, right? Is that right? Yep.
Yep. So Niglia moves to approve.
Eichhoff seconds.
Any discussion? Roll call, Jane?
Yes.
Cheryl?
Yes.
Amy? Darren?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Leah? And I'm a yes. Okay.
Okay, IT room, we're going to go into close now. You can stop the recording and cancel it out.